Hey everybody, this is Martin Rooney again with Joe Ken, and we're out here at Arizona State. It's a little hot today, so we're going to try to get through this stuff as fast as we can. Today we're going to get an opportunity to cover a lot of the things that we use from the 40-yard dash. In the whole scheme of things, obviously, as you coaches know, you guys can have a kid that benches 225 for 50, but if he runs a 6 flat, nobody's interested. So the 40 is the be-all, end-all in all the tests. As I've always said before, a lot of coaches say, is the 40 really that important? I mean, I got a kid that's got speed on the field. Does that mean that just because he doesn't run a 40, he's no good? We're not saying that at all, but what we are saying is the 40 is something that's measurable. It is something that people test out, and every coach, I'm sure, would love to work with a 4.2 guy versus a 5.2 guy. So if every coach knows that this is an important test, we want to give you the best opportunity to prepare your kids, and that's what we're going to be going over today. We're going to show the second half of the warm-up with everybody today, and we're also going to go into a discussion about the tempo 40 work that we do, and then we're going to bring it back to the gym and show off not only some of the exercises we use to produce the results we get, we're also going to go into a dissertation about the bench press, which Joe here has really enlightened us on a lot of things about what they do, and it's really helped our program take it to the next level. So let's get started. So guys, what we're going to be doing, this is another part of the dynamic warm-up where we're going to actually be doing muscle activation and working on flexibility, but with dynamic motion. So remember what we talked about yesterday. Flexibility isn't just sitting there and holding stretches out, because that can actually shut you down. What we're looking for is quick movements that you also simulate not only out on the field, but when you're running in your training. Okay, so right now knees are bent. We want to bend the knees up, hands across the chest. And what we're going to do is we're going to drive the heels down into the ground, and we're going to pop our hips up as high as we can for 8 reps. So heels down, hips up, 8 reps. Get a squeeze on the hamstring and the glutes on every rep when we do it. Let's get 8 on my count. Ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get up there. 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now what we're going to do, you're going to lift the right leg in the air. So right leg up. We're going to do the exact same thing we just did, still raising up the hips as high as we can, but we're only going to do it using the left leg. So left leg now, ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, squeeze the hammy. 4, 5, get up there, G. 6, 7, and 8. Switch sides. Ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Nice. What we're going to do now, both legs are straight, toes pulled up. So remember, we're always keeping this toe up position. Think of it as in every drill, like we talked about, every rep, every set, you can either do it perfect or you can get further away from the goal. So we want those toes pulled up, which is going to increase the chances that your toes are pulled up on every drill that we use. What we're going to do right now is with the right leg, we're going to kick the right leg up as high and as fast as we can, getting a huge stretch on the hamstring and bringing it back down. What we're not going to do is let the other leg bend up while we do it. If the other leg starts bending up, we know that hip flexors are a little bit tight. It's something we're going to have to work on. So right leg for 8, big kicks, kicking them up. Ready, and go. 1, big kicks. 2, high as you can. 3, 4, 5, keep the toe up. 6, 7, and 8. So obviously, guys, from that, we'd actually want to see more range of motion. So we show, hey, you guys are a little bit tight right now, something to open up here. Other side, left leg, toes up, toes up, toes up. Ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep the other leg straight. 7, and 8. Nice. Now, we're going to roll onto the left side. So roll onto your left side and straighten your body out. What I've always found is this kind of becomes an optical illusion for our athletes, where right now, Ish isn't straight, he's bent at the waist. So we want to straighten the body out, we want to pull the toes up, and then roll the hips forward as if you're like a pencil rolling forward, perfect, right to there. So we're going to roll forward, and from there, we're going to lead with the hip, or the heel, and come up, and then back down, keeping the toe up. So we're working on those hip abductors. This is an important area that we're finding across the board. Most athletes are weak in because it's an area that's not trained. So those hip abductors are essential, where we want to come up and make sure that, again, position dictates function. So if his body is in the right position when he activates this, we're getting the correct function of the muscle that we want. A common mistake is to roll and kick up with the toe here, and now we're kind of hitting hip flexor, but that's not what we're after here. We want to work those abductors, which is going to be critical to our lateral performance. So let's get 8. Let's get those legs back a little bit, G. The back, there you go. Ready, and go. 1, 2, keep the heel up. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Nice. Now what we're going to do, then the athlete takes the leg, bends it up. You're going to grab that ankle. So reach in, grab it, and pull it. What we always look for here and what we see across the board with our athletes is usually their gluteal muscles are pretty tight. So all the small gluteal muscles, the external rotators at the hip, we always find that these are real tight areas on our athletes. One, we get an opportunity to really pull that leg up and try to stretch it out. And do you feel that there, right in there? And if that's tight, that's an area that we got to work on, which, you know, a lot of times with my athletes, I see that it either leads to hamstring problems or low back problems, and really it's this area, and if you fix it, all of a sudden those other issues go away. Besides that, then we're going to keep the bottom leg straight, which is sometimes hard to do. Bottom leg straight, and we're going to keep the toe pulled up. And now, this is almost a test that I have for all my athletes. What I want to see from this point is I want to see how high you can lift the leg. Most of the time when our athletes do this, they barely are able to get it off the ground. So we make a joke about guy can't even get a piece of paper slid under that leg. The ultimate goal is to be able to really bring that leg up much, much higher. So guys, I want to see maximal height, and what we're doing here is activating the adductor group, which is another area that most athletes don't even have the ability to activate, which we want to work on right here. So now, kicking that leg up, ready, and go. 1, keep the leg straight. 2, 3, get height. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Good. Now switch to the other side. So coaches, what you want to look for again is every rep, every set, each week it needs to improve. Don't allow the kids just to barely be moving the foot up a little bit each time. Each time and each week that range of motion has to increase, and then you know not only are you activating better, you're working more of the muscle. So now, roll the hip forward, heel is the highest part, rolling, leading with the heel. Ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Pull the top leg over the bottom again. Big stretch, pull it up, bottom leg is straight and stays straight, toe is pulled up the whole time. We're gonna lead and lift it up as high as you can. Ready, and go. 1, get height. 2, 3, come on. 4, let's go, G. 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, now roll around to your stomachs, facing me. It's facing this way on your stomachs. We're gonna bring the arms out, straight in front of us, hands are up towards the sky, thumbs up. Toes pulled up. So remember, toes, this has to become an automatic position. Your body should just lock in that position all the time. That toe up position is something that activates a reflex, not only get your knee up, but it creates faster movement and puts your ankle in the position to stimulate quicker, faster movements off the ground. What we're going to do now is we're going to lift the left arm and the right leg only, keeping them perfectly straight. Left arm, right leg only, perfectly straight, and we're not going to drop down when we do it. We're going to do that for 8. Ready, and go. 1, 2, back down, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, on this one, when I'm watching you guys, what I don't want to see is you pressing down into the ground with your other opposite hand that's on there. So that other hand should barely be touching the ground, and you're all using your extensor muscles to be able to create that lift. Other side, ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now what we're going to do is both arms, both legs at the same time. It's called the classic Superman. We're going to go both arms, both legs, and after our 8th rep, we're going to hold the up position for 8 seconds. It's a lot tougher than it sounds. Ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now hold. Keep the toes pulled up. Legs straight, Gabe. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. You guys feel that? All right, next one. Everybody on their hands and knees, just like me. This next portion of the warm-up, everything stems from what we call the bulldog position. Now from this position, or this next series, I consider it one of the most important portions of the warm-up, not only for strength and flexibility around the hips, but the ability to really warm the athlete up perfectly for the running that they're about to do. Remember, coaches, your engine is that posterior chain when we run. I mean, that's where it's all stimulated from. You can have a strong upper back, strong arms, strong calves, strong Achilles, but if you're missing that hamstring and that posterior chain, that glute, that low back, you know, you're missing the engine. It's like having a great car with no engine inside it. This position, guys, we're going to keep our arms straight, and we're going to keep our back flat and our head in a neutral position with our toes pulled up. So toes up, Gabe, toes up on every drill. From there, what we're going to do is we're going to bring our knee up and out to the side, still keeping our arms straight, our toe pulled up, back flat, and we're going to come back. So you see how my leg points out to the back, it doesn't come forward and I bend my arms. So I'm here, it's out, back down, out, back down. Meticulously following the same path of motion, under control, and really squeezing those muscles, what you feel in your butt cheek, making them work. Let's get that right side for 8. Ready, and go. 1, arm straight, Gabe. 2, 3, 4, 5, lock the elbows. 6, 7, and 8. Nice. Other side. Now guys, and coaches out there, if you notice that the people's arms are bending, you can't stop that, there's either a flexibility issue in the core or in the hips that you have to address, or you're going to always see that limitation. So force that position to take place. Left leg, ready, and go. 1, 2, lead with the knee. 3, 4, yeah. 5, keep the arm straight. 6, 7, and 8, solid. Now, staying in that position, the next motion is going to be a forward leg circle. From this position right here, I'm going to pretend that there's a fence right here and I'm actually climbing over the fence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the knee back, up, and over. Back, up, and over. Making a huge circle, a huge sweeping circle with my hip, trying to make it as big as possible, controlling it and bringing the leg back to the original position. Right leg first. Ready, and go. 1, keep the knee bent. 2, 3, a good coaching cue right here. 4, grab that knee. 5, bring it over. 6, bring it over. 7, that's it. And 8. So coaches, don't be afraid to get in there too. Put your hands on your athletes. Show them the motion and get it moving. A lot of that kinesthetic sense, it's way easier to understand it when somebody pushes you through it than it is by just saying, hey, get that leg around, get that leg around. Left leg now, big circles, ready, and go. 1, 2, get it up and back, Gabe. 3, so right here. 4, way big circles. 5, there you go. 6, 7, arm straightish. And 8, solid. Now we're going to reverse direction, guys, and now we're going to go backwards circles. Now picture you're climbing out a window that's up here behind you. You're going to bring the knee forward, up, and back. Forward, up, and back. Always keeping everything locked, opening up that hip range motion. Right side, ready, and go. 1, 2, get that knee up. 3, arm straight. 4, 5, discipline, lock the arms out. 6, 7, and 8. Feeling it in the hips? Other side, ready, and go. 1, get the knee up. 2, come on, Gabe. 3, get them up. 4, get up there. 5, get up. 6, that's it. 7, and 8. Now, this one is the capper, one of the toughest ones. Hard one, but also an opportunity to really assess stability. Just like every exercise in here, every exercise you watch your athletes, you're looking at flexibility, you're looking at stability, you're looking at strength, and each one of these is an opportunity to assess that and understand what you're working on. So these aren't just drills to work somebody out. This is your constant assessment tool to see if there's improvement or not. Arms are straight, back is flat, leg is completely out to the side, so we're bringing the right leg all the way out. From here, what we're going to do is you're going to lift the leg under control, lifting as high as you can without touching it back down to the ground. For 8, ready, and go. 1, arm straight. 2, 3, lock them out. 4, lock the elbows out. 5, 6, 7, and 8. Switch sides. Feeling that? Other side, ready, and go. 1, 2, don't touch the ground. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Next one, what we're going to do, guys, staying in that position. Leg comes straight to the back, so we're going right leg out back to the, straight. Arms are straight, back is flat. What we're going to do now is you're just going to lift the leg, squeezing with the butt cheek, keeping the leg straight. The heel does not have to come high super up. It just has to come up, and I want you to almost make a fist using that butt cheek. Bring the right leg back, get an 8. Ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, squeeze that butt cheek. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Other side. Ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, everybody on their stomachs. This one is another great hip exercise, one of my favorites for range of motion. We're going to have our hands under our chin. We're going to have our chin flat, and we're going to keep our chest down. Toes pulled up, G. Every time. From this position, what we're going to do here is we are going to drive our knee up into our armpit. So if I show this for the camera, I'm here, and now what I'm going to do, keeping everything straight, I'm going to drive my knee up and back to the original position. Drive my knee up and back to the original position. So you're punching that knee up into the armpit and then bringing it back down all the way to the original position and coming back. Keeping the chest down, because if your chest comes up, it shows that the flexibility isn't where we want it. Right leg for 8. Ready, and go. 1. Bring them up there. 2, 3, 4. Get that knee up, G. 5. All the way up. 6, 7, and 8. Switch sides. Got to punch the knees higher. Other side, get aggressive here. Ready, and go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Nice. Now what we're going to do is a little flexibility activity. Stay in right there. Now we're going to bring our hands out. So from this position now, keeping our hands flat, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my right foot and I'm going to bring it all the way, or my left foot all the way over to my right hand. I'm going to keep the right leg straight while I do it. So it's going to look like this, guys. I'm going to roll over to here, roll over to here, roll over to there. See it? So I'm bringing those up, the opposite arm or opposite leg to opposite hand. We'll start going right leg to left hand first, keep it in unison, and then we switch to the other side. Ready, and go. 1, switch. 2, switch, flow over. 3, reach forward, Gabe. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, so with Gabe, how he was doing this right then, what I want to see is if you bring that leg over, what we want to see is we want to see that leg really bend. So what I try to teach this with athletes is to actually try to bring the knee to the hand, not just the foot. Because the mistake athletes make is they just put their foot down here, which is what G was doing. We want to really bring this knee over as much as we can. So you feel that in there? So we want to bring that over so we're really opening up the hip flexor instead of just kind of stretching the quad out a little bit. So let me just see a couple more reps now, all the way over. We're going to go right leg, left hand first. Ready? And go. 1, yes. 2, now we're talking. 3, and 4, solid. Now, everybody onto their backs. Now what we're gonna do, guys, you can face me so you can see this. What we're gonna do now, guys, is almost the exact same thing we just did, but on our backs. Palms are gonna be down. What we're gonna do is, we're gonna turn our hip, and we're gonna kick our foot up to the opposite hand, but when we do it, we're gonna turn our head in the other direction. So it's gonna kind of look like this. Hip, kick and turn. Hip, kick and turn. Hip, kick and turn. Just like that, getting a good stretch. Palms are down. We're going to kick right foot to left hand first. Ready? And go. 1, turn the head the opposite way. 2, 3, 4, turn that hip first, Ish. 5, we'll do 10 total. 6, keep the other leg straight. 7, 8, 9, and 10. Solid. Last one we're going to come through on, guys. This is just a forward V series or forward roll series. What we're going to do is we're going to roll back, stretching out the low back and neck, and then we're going to fire back to the original position. So we're going to roll back, come to a hurdler seat this way. Roll back, come to a hurdler seat on the other side. Then we're going to roll back, and then a V sit right here, straight. We're going to do all three, those three times through, so 9 total on you. So just get going on it right now. So roll back into a hurdler stretch, roll back into the opposite side hurdler stretch, roll back into a V-sit stretch, and then just do it all again 3 times. Again, when we look at this, coaches, this is a little bit of flexibility here. You want your athletes to challenge themselves and try to stretch as much as they can. But what we're doing is we're not putting an extended hold on this stretch. We're moving through this stretch dynamically and getting everything going. Solid. And again, this is these guys' first opportunity to do this with me before. We haven't done this before. Some of these exercises were new, right? And everybody performed them great because, again, it's the attention to detail, how you coach it, and demanding perfect performance of yourself as a coach and of your athletes. And when you do that, they're going to get an opportunity to do it. And I'll tell you what, in a week of doing this, just 5 times, everybody should have this stuff down. So we've had a lot of discussions with coaches where they'll say, man, I'm working with 60 athletes, 70 athletes. How do I do it? How do I keep the attention to detail? The thing is, you create a culture of discipline. You create a culture where that's the way you do it here. The only way is to do it perfect, or you don't do it at all. And you're going to see in a week or 2, every athlete's going to have it down. But it starts with you as the coach, and if you do it right, everybody's going to get it. What we're going to be going over next, now that the warm-up is complete, is something called a running progression. It's something that we've put together where now we've warmed the athlete up, but their nervous system and their running mechanics aren't completely stimulated now to run your best 40. So what we want to make sure is that that athlete has warmed up, but now they actually go through a little bit of a running progression to now prepare for that actual 40. You want your athlete to be primed and ready like a well-oiled machine just for that event. So what we're going to do first, guys, is we're going to do something called quick steps. This is something that improves stride frequency. So it's going to be able to turn your nervous system on faster than you're used to turning it on. And how it's going to work is we're going to keep the hands open, arms at 90 degrees, the jaw is going to be loose and relaxed, and we're actually just going to be stepping over kind of the opposite ankle. So all we're doing right there is we're right here, and all I want to see is as many fast steps as you can take, barely moving forward, being as quick as possible. We're going to do 5 yards on, then you just walk for 5 yards. Then we're going to go 5 yards on, walk for 5 yards. The goal is not to finish it faster than everybody else. The goal is actually to be the last guy, because that means you took the most steps. Got it? So we'll get started. Get this cord out of your way. Ready, and go. So fast arms, aggressive arms, head up, head up, head up, head up. Nice, then walk. Let's see a little bit faster arms on in this next one. Keep the head up, chest up, loose jaw, and go. Fast feet, fast feet, fast feet, fast feet. Nice. Now Gabe, one thing that I'll say definitely on that again is what I don't want to see. Remember we talked about the wrists yesterday. So your hands are kind of flapping, lock them. If you got to, lock that thumb, and now the hand moves quick past the hips instead of flapping, because that little extra motion is costing time every time you do something. Let's see the same thing coming back, guys. And go. Now we're keep them tight, keep them tight. That's it, G. Keep that hand and fire it. Step over that ankle, fast feet, on and off the ground, on and off the ground. Nice. Now, common mistakes for that drill, coaches. One of the things that you can see a lot of times is guys actually, we call it beating the drum, where they're actually now bending at the elbow. That's not what we want. So we don't want flexion and extension there. What we want is all the motion taking place at the shoulder, and the hand is actually just brushing by the hip. What happens is when you start teaching this thing, it's throwing off the mechanics when you do that stuff. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen, okay? On the next drill, and this is a little more advanced version of the quick step, what we're going to do this time is kind of mimic what happens in a 40. One of the theories out there is something called a speed barrier, where when athletes only perform all their exercises and their running drills at all the same velocities all the time, they're actually setting their nervous system at that velocity. The attempt, or the purpose behind this drill for me is to be able to stimulate more speed than the nervous system is used to performing. So what we're going to do, guys, on this next drill is we're going to do the same exact thing, but whatever speed you start out at, I want you to gradually pick it up and finish at a faster speed when you finish. So it should kind of look like this. So say I start, and I'm faster, and then I finish. So you see how I want to see you pick it up. And as you pick it up, all I want you to do when you start is you're going to breathe in, and when you start, you're just going to breathe out and exhale the whole way. So it's an exhalation. One of the things we have to pay a lot of attention to is what takes place in the 40. You're not taking breaths, and nobody's breathing during the 40-yard dash. It should be one breath in and a controlled exhalation through the rest of the race. So let's try it right now. You're going to start at one speed, finish at a faster speed, still keeping great form the whole time though. Stay very relaxed. Ready, and go. That's it. And then just walk. Stay on the balls of the feet, G. Let's see it again. Nice. Much better arm form too. I like it. I like it. Same thing coming back. Way better, guys. I like the attention to detail right there. Arms at 90. Same thing coming back. That's it. Now, not so high-ish. Keep the knees low. Just stepping over the ankle. This isn't sprinting yet. Nice. So you guys feel a difference there where you actually have just more attention to the detail of the drill? One of the things that, again, it's going to separate you as a coach. It's those three words, attention to detail. Every drill has purpose, and there's a best way to perform it. It's not just, okay, guys, quick steps, and now there's never any coaching again. No athlete completely ever has it. Everybody can get better. Just like everybody will agree, no athlete is ever as strong as they could possibly be. No athlete is ever as fast as they can possibly either, and that's our jobs to make that happen. So again, we want to stimulate these responses and always confuse or change things that's happening for the nervous system so they're always given a stimulus to adapt to. Now, what we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to do what you can call it a high knee. We call it a high knee fold, where the leg actually folds up under us, but the knee comes up. One of the mistakes or things that we don't do anymore is the old school butt kickers where guys are kicking back, where they're actually activating the hamstring, but they're activating it incorrectly for what takes place during the running motion. So what we want is that hamstring is going to activate, but so is the calf, which crosses the knee joint as well, and everything's going to fold up under us. So you see how it kind of snaps up? So my knee snaps up, my ankle is cocked up, but my heel is coming up under me. Okay? So what it's going to look like when we do this, if I don't kill myself on this cord is we're going to be here, and you're thinking about aggressive arms, and that foot is coming up and under you when you do it. Do you guys see that? So again, very aggressive with the arms. This is all arms again too, but we want to see that heel punch up under you as the knee kicks up. And what I want again is the first time through, we're just keeping a steady pace. Take as many steps as you can. Don't hustle through it. 5 on, 5 off, 5 on. Ready, and go. Nice. I like that a lot, Gabe. Get those heels up, Ish. Heels up under you. So remember too, guys, an issue about flexibility. If your quads are tight, hip flexors are tight, it's going to be hard for you to get that heel up under there. The more you can get that heel up under there, the more effective leverage you're going to have when you run. Arms aggressive, head up, eyes forward. Nice. Nice, guys. So again, with this drill, now we're working on what would be kind of more taking place at top end speed with the mechanics or the finishing part of the race. Put those together with the higher frequency, and now we've got the finish to the race that we're going to be talking about later. What I want to see on the next one now is that same attention to detail that we did before. You're going to start off at one speed, but I want you to finish harder. The way that you're going to shift those gears or change is going to be with your arm mechanics. So here's an interesting drill I want to show you guys right now to show the importance of the arms. Right now, everybody just jog in place. Just jogging. Now start moving your arms faster. Faster arms, faster arms, faster arms, faster arms. Now, what happened to your feet? Feet got faster. I didn't say to move your feet faster. What happened? It just happens, right? It's a nervous system. That's how things are controlled. So the thing is, those arms hold the key. So one, the arms have to be in the right positions to make sure that we're using optimal mechanics to make sure that turnover is as good as it can. But the attention to detail has to be on those arms so that that's how you're going to run fast. And I said it yesterday. What does an Olympic sprinter's upper body look like? Yoked, jacked. You know, that's because it's a real important area of the body to have strong and explosive to be able to run fast. So on this next one, how you're going to control that change of pace or that change of keys is going to be your arms are going to turn on more aggressive. So let's start off at one speed, finish at another with the high knees, hard arms. Ready, and go. Nice. Aggressive arms. That's why the performance has to be perfect. Fire those arms, fire those arms, fire those arms. Nice. Let's get the same thing coming back. Fire the arms, fire the arms, fire the arms, fire the arms. Nice. Knees up still, heels up under you. Heels up under you, knees up, knees up, knees up, knees up. Nice. So right there, what we're working on, coaches, is a running progression, starting to get things stimulated. Then what we would go into is either a couple of tempo 40s or a 40 at a certain pace, and then it would be time to rock the best 40 of your life, which now we're going to cover the technique behind it for you in a second. The 40-yard dash. It's probably the most glorified test in America. It's something that, you know, if you play football in this country, you know what you run, you know what you've always run, and probably you lied about what you ran a little bit too and told everybody you were about 2 or 3 tenths faster than you really were when you were getting timed in your basement by your grandmother for 10 yards and then you factored it out for the 40. But the 40-yard dash to us, even from the youngest athletes all the way up, it is a great test of sports performance. The guys that run the fastest times in the country for us every year are the strongest, fastest athletes with incredible flexibility, dexterity, agility, so there is some carryover. If you got a guy that runs a 4.2 on the hand, or in our case, we've had guys run 4.1s on the hands, these guys are phenomenal athletes. Now, does it mean they're a great football player? No. Doesn't mean they can play football at all. That's why you don't see world famous track and field stars crossing over to football all the time, because as soon as they get popped in the mouth one time, they usually, you know, that's when they go back to their track spikes on the track. But the thing is, the 40-yard dash is not just get down there and run as fast as you can. The 40-yard dash is a concerted effort of about 7 or 8 different things that are going to make the difference whether you run the fastest time of your life or you go home saying, man, I was robbed. So we want to make sure that every athlete has the opportunity to understand these techniques and gets the best opportunity to put their foot forward when the time counts. Because unfortunately, you will be measured in this test. This at the high school level determines who plays. At the collegiate level, it determines who might get a scholarship. And at the professional level, it depends on who might sign for millions and millions of dollars. And we see it every year. So we hope you listen up for this. We're going to start off with what is our most important piece after the warm-up, which we already identified. The warm-up is critical. After that, it's the stance. Because let's face it, guys, if you get in the wrong stance, your first step is wrong. If your first step and your start is wrong, your first 10 is wrong. If your first 10 is wrong, the race is over. Again, this is a test that hopefully is going to take you about 4.3 seconds to complete. So when we're talking about that small increment of time, one little error and it's over. 1/10 of a second in the 40 is about this much distance, 2/10 right here. So the difference between 4.3 and 4.5 is not much, but in terms of the NFL, it's a ton, because this is the difference between creating enough separation between your opponent to score a touchdown and make big things happen for your team. So it does count, but what we want you to see is it's not this much distance that we're looking to gain here. We're trying to get this. So let's see it. Let's get started. All right, we're back, and it's time to cover the stance. One of the pieces that I think most athletes pay probably the least amount of attention to is the stance, and it's as evidenced by every time we see a lot of athletes perform the 40-yard dash, there are so many common mistakes that they make. It is obvious that a coach has never really worked with them or told them how to set up. Yet, if you go to the Olympic Games, which we talked about already, this is your Olympic Games, you don't see Maurice Green or some world-class 100-meter guy wondering which foot he's going to put forward, or, hey, why's that guy got a different pair of shoes on, or how should my arm be, or when should I get started? There are no questions about that, because he has perfected that technique, because he understands the importance of how that technique is going to carry him through the rest of the race. I've heard from different 100-meter guys that they know if they miss their first step, it's going to take them 3 or 4 steps to possibly catch up for that mistake, but most times they can't. And that's 100 meters, which is much, much further than the distance in a 40-yard dash. So our room for error, or our margin for error, is even smaller. Now, we've seen a lot of different techniques, and we've performed hundreds of different techniques on high-speed video film just to find what works best. We're going to show you some of the common mistakes to look for, and then what we're going to do is show you the technique that works for us. In the past, one of the things that we wanted to do was we said, man, we want to take advantage of this test as much as we can, so we want to crowd the line. So what we tried to do is we did something that we kind of coined the term the bunch start. And what we did is we had the athletes get in there and kind of get that toe as far as they'd be allowed to put the toe up. We'd have them put the other toe up as far as they could too. And what we found was, wow, this is awesome. We're getting about 2 feet plus in front of that line. And we produced good times with this. But the unfortunate part was, what we found through video analysis over the years is, this position right here does not set you up for the next 3 or 4 steps in the right position that we want. And we're going to talk about what that is, and I think we're going to change how some people think. Other common mistakes that we see is, even when athletes set up with their feet in a certain area and they're down, we always see this one arm get chucked up about as far up as they can. We call this the coach's flag. Because you may have a coach on a pro day standing 40 yards away from you, and this flag says, hey coach, as soon as you see me move, start the clock. And the problem is, when this thing moves, the rest of the body really hasn't yet. Okay? So when this hand is all the way back there, which seems to be the compulsory way that the 40-yard dash is taught, not only is the arm in the wrong position, but we know about levers, a long lever is a slow lever. So anybody that tries to swing their arms as fast as they can this way knows it's not as fast as I move them this way. So to change that, always keep the arm locked at the hip, ready to explode, which from a 40-yard distance is much more difficult to see move at first, and gives you the advantage of at least a better time versus somebody getting the time on you. Another common mistake that we see is, a lot of times when the athletes get in their position to start, not only is the arm stuck straight up, but the butt is as high in the air as possible. This is another common classic thing that we see. So now, the butt is way high in the air, and the legs, unfortunately, are very straight. And when you look at the legs and the vectors that they're going to produce when the muscles activate, the athlete not only is not going to get any power from here, but they're definitely not going to be driven in the direction that we want them to be. And this is another commonly taught piece that we look for. I'm going to talk about what we have as a marble theory in a little bit on how we get around that piece as well. Another super common mistake we see is athletes start off just way, way too far behind the line. The athlete sets up, and when they set up, they try to get way comfortable way back there. And when you look at this athlete's body, if I really measured from their hips, which is where we look through our athletes about where those hips are, this athlete's hips are about a yard and a half behind the line. So essentially, he's got to get those hips across that line. Now he's running a 41 and a half. So what we want to make sure is, we have an optimal amount that we're closer to the line, but our body is set up in the exact positions that are necessary to drive out the right way. And a final mistake, if Scott faces the camera, which I think is important to see, is we have this real common with our linemen or just common with our football players. A lot of the athletes start with an incredibly wide stance. They start with almost a football stance where the feet are very wide apart. The athlete gets down, they put a ton of weight on their hands, but this position right here, just as evidenced by track and field blocks are very narrow where the feet are narrow where they can shoot straight ahead. This position right here, what we found is any athlete that uses it has a tendency to drive off to one side, and then because he's driven off to the one side to continue to go straight ahead, now he has to drive off to another. And just like our theory we talked about yesterday with the 5-10-5 test and the L drill, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. We want Scott to follow a straight line when he comes out, not just out of the 10, but out of the entire 40-yard dash. Any amount that he's moving side to side, there's also time being added up for the sideways distance as much as there is for straight ahead. So now, having seen many, and probably one last common problem as well, if Scott gets down, is the athlete picking up the head and looking downfield as much as, trying to see where they're running to. In this position, we create a ton of tension in the upper body and neck, and if Scott stands up, keeping his head in the same position right there, do you see how this is not the position that we want the body in? His energy is going backwards. So we're going to talk about all these mistakes and how we not only ridded them from our program, but made sure that we came up with the optimal technique. So, optimal technique, what is it or what do we like? First thing is, I'm going to tell you right now, depending on the size of your athlete, the leg length of your athlete, there are a lot of different things that you can manipulate. But the different principles or the different positions that you're going to see, you have to learn, and we're going to show you how to manipulate the feet to be able to achieve it all the time. And how we look at it is it's what takes place at the low back and what takes place at the hips and shin angles, which is going to be most important to us. So right now, what Scott's going to do, he's going to set up and he's going to choose which leg, the forward leg, a very important choice, which leg is important to him. A good test you can ask your athletes is you can say, guys, if you were going to go in and shoot a layup in basketball, what leg would you like to jump off of? Depending on what leg that is that you jump off of, that would probably be the leg that you start with off front. We actually have a plan landing on the field right now, so we're gonna take it a little easy. But so again, depending on what leg you take off of, say in a basketball layup or a long jump, will probably be the leg that you'd like to put forward. And then more often than not, we also find that some of our athletes using a lefty stance versus what we consider a traditional righty stance, they actually perform better tens, and all of a sudden we switch that stance when the time comes. So Scott right now, he's going to take that leg that's more important to him, and he's going to move it about 3 to 4 inches behind the front line. And with your bigger athletes, you might go as far as 6 or 8 inches behind the front line. Don't think that where the feet are sneaking up on the line is the key to how fast you're going to run. So Scott's going to take that foot, put it behind the line, keeping it straight ahead. Then he's going to take his back foot, and he's going to keep it about 4 to 6 inches apart, but he's also going to move that back foot about 4 inches behind the front foot. So again, we've got the 4 to 6 inches apart, and then when he goes back to the original position, you can see that how we like it is, whatever amount of distance you take off the line, you can also use the same amount of distance behind the back foot to the heel of the front foot. From there, what Scott's going to do is put all his weight down out in front of the line. So just like a track and field sprinter, what he's going to do right now is he's going to load all his weight into his body. But here's the catch. When he does this, he is not going to bring his butt up into the air as he comes back. What he's going to do is he's going to bring his butt backwards and load in there. Big difference when he does that. When he does that, he's going to bring his one hand back, the down hand back. He's going to bring the other arm and lock it back. And now in this position, he's going to bring his head and retract his head and neck back. So here what I look for is, if I put a marble right here on his back, is that marble just going to fall right off of the front? Is that marble going to just dump off his body? Because if it does, that tells us every time that the first thing he's going to do is jackknife out of that position, and it kills the entire race. A lot of people, in a lot of ways that I used to think, is I used to say, the first 10 was the key to the 40-yard dash. Well, I'm here to tell you today, it's not the key to the 40-yard dash. The key to the 40-yard dash is you get in the right stance, and this line, which Joe Ken conveniently put out here because he's a student of this game, this is your whole race right here. If you blow this distance right here, 2 to 3 tenths gone that you can't have back. We've seen it over and over because this is the only distance that really affects your 10-yard dash. Make this happen perfect, you're off to a great start. Make this happen poorly, the 10's wrong, The whole 40's wrong. And we're going to talk about what has to happen in this portion of the race to make sure as a coach you understand it. And we're going to change how everybody thinks about the body angle, the so-called 45-degree body angle that everybody talks about. With our new analysis systems, we found that's not true. We're going to talk about it. But Scott, getting back to the original position. Scott gets down. He loads his weight, and again, he brings the butt back. He brings the hand back, and then the arm back behind him with that flat back. I like to consider this the launching pad. I want to see how this athlete's body is that he's able to launch in the exact position of angle that his upper body is in. Now what's great about this too is, look, we've gotten a lot of things from best of both worlds. We have the arm locked. We have his head now still 2 feet in front of that line, which is, you know, if he's strong enough to do that, and his feet and his shin angles are in optimal position to drive out straight. So right there, these are the kind of things that you're looking for. Now, for instance, say Scott got into that position again. And guys, you don't know how hard it is to hold. I'm torturing Scott right now by doing this. Say Scott's butt was high up in the air because his back foot was pulled up more. You got to look at this and be able to say, even though you're saying, man, I'm flattening it back out, that might not work. But now if I just have Scott move his back foot back and say move it back a little further, and now bend that knee. Do you see how I can lower that back into the right position wherever I want? So that back foot is kind of like ballast where you can manipulate that body position using that. Because every athlete's leg length and torso length are different. So manipulating the feet correctly can help you to achieve the position that you're looking for. So you might say, man, I tried his 4 inches behind the line and I tried his other foot here and my athlete can't get in that position. You got to work on these things, manipulate it and play with it a little bit. And you'll see that you're going to hit that. And again, it's what we call the launching pad. You get that body angle right on that launching pad that the athlete comes out on, that's where we want to go. Thing that we're going to be covering here for the 40-yard dash today, because we've contained all this other information on our the 40-yard dash method video that we have out of Parisi's. One of the things that we're going to go over right here is what takes place in that all-important first yard. Over the last 2 years, we've produced the fastest man at the 40-yard dash both years. We had Triendos Luke run a 4.30 on the laser. We had Fabian Washington run a 4.32 on the laser, but handheld. He was timed in the 4.2s by just about every coach there and was told to be the fastest guy at the NFL Combine. Both of these guys had incredible starts, but even more important than that, both of these guys had incredible first yards. They were strong for their body weight, which again, I'll always contend that relative body strength is one of the key components you have to being a great athlete. But in that first yard, one of the things I need every coach to understand is that the more that your athlete goes out than up, the more successful that race is going to be. As you guys know from all our work in the 10-yard dash information, staying low is critical to running your best 10. But you can't stay low if your body pops up as the first thing that happens. So on high-speed video analysis, if you guys are, or video analyzing your athletes at all, the piece that you want to see is that the athlete's head should only move forward. The mistake is every bit that the head is moving up, time is disappearing going upward as much as it is going forward. So Scott right here, if I looked at the top of his head, and again, his eyes should be down on the ground, flat low back, flat neck, so tuck that chin even a little more. There you go. He's just thinking about punching his head forward and out. So let's see it. So as the head moves, everything should just be moving forward and outward with that incredibly big, powerful step. Now, a lot of people out there, whenever I've seen things, and one of the things I think that makes us different as coaches is we question whatever we read. So I've read the 45-degree body angle is the acceleration angle, probably in 100 different texts, and it's just preached by everybody. Just like when I was a javelin thrower in college, I used to hear 45-degree angle of release, and these were things we talked about. But what we found is that through our video analysis, about 30 degrees is the angle we're looking for. Because if we think about it, a 45-degree angle is going straight up in the air, which is what a lot of athletes do. So they pop up, and now you're in that 45-degree angle, you wasted everything you had. So what we want to see is about a 30-degree angle where that athlete is incredibly low and diving forward. So we're going to change how everybody thinks about it, but everything has to go forward then up. And that 45-degree angle, I don't know where it came from, but it isn't something that we've found as valid during the training with our athletes. So hopefully, again, with the warm-up that's contained on this video, the concept of getting in the right stance and being able to perform it perfectly all the time, and then that first yard being perfect and understanding the concepts to it, in addition to the information that we have on our other videos, you should be able to put together one of the best 40-yard times you've ever had. One last piece, Scott brought it up a second ago. when you get down in your 40-yard dash time, once you've mastered the position, you should only spend a short period of time there. The last thing you want to do is ice yourself or ice your body by staying down and holding a static stretch for a long time. So what we like to do, we like to have the athletes fire themselves up a little bit, beat on the muscles a little bit to stimulate the nervous system, and then boom, when they get down, they find their position, they know where it is, they walk back into it, a split-second hold, and then go. So hopefully, guys, this helped everybody out, and it's making a difference with your team this year, and we're starting to see better times. Thanks a lot for having us, and we look forward to bringing you more great information. All right, the next test that we're going to be covering is the bench press. In particular, we're going to be doing the 225-pound bench press, which is commonly used at the collegiate or the NFL combine level. Today, what we have the luxury of is Joe Can, the head strength and conditioning coach at Arizona State University, which is one of my most respected colleagues. He's going to be sharing his secrets of not only bench technique, but also the training protocols that he follows to have helped him produce a number of 30-plus rep benchers in the 225-pound bench press test every year coming out of his program. His tier system is one of the most powerful systems that I've seen used in a collegiate setting, and it's something I think everybody should get an opportunity to hear more about and read more about in the book that he produced if you get the opportunity. Today we're also going to see one of his top guys actually bench for us, and hopefully you're going to get a real treat and see how this stuff is really done and get some insight on how to work into this program with your own kids. So let's get started.
What happens on the field is very, very reactive. What we hope is that these drills, by improving their overall athleticism, gives our football coaches better athletes. They deal with the specific skill development that allows them to become great football players. But as this tape will show you, these drills are imperative to the athlete succeeding, whether it's a high school kid getting a scholarship or a college guy going to the NFL, and then more importantly, where he's drafted in that NFL draft. We want to show you different ways and techniques that will allow your athletes to maximize their performance. I've been fortunate enough to talk about our program here with the bench press and how it fits our combine training, and a little bit talk about how it fits our athletic base strength training or the tier system model that we use for our athletes. The first thing I'd like to tell you is we train our athletes / football players totally different than we train our athletes who are preparing for their combine or pro day events. Why? Because one, we're training an athlete for a specific sport, and we have to get their general attributes from both physically and mentally prepared. The combine, we're training for 7 different events. It's almost like training an athlete in the decathlon. It's very, very specific. Our bench training that occurs during our combine training is totally different than what we do with our athletes. It's actually very more specific to increasing the repetitions that an athlete can do at 225, more so than improving a 1 rep max or a 3 or 5 repetition max for maximum strength. First we're going to talk about is technique. I'm going to bring in one of our athletes here. This athlete performed 31 repetitions at his second pro day and 29 repetitions on his first. This was a 6 rep and then an 8 rep improvement from his best ever going into his combine training. With these techniques and this programming, we have averaged 6 to 8 reps improvement from one year to the next with our senior class going into their combine training class. Bench press technique. For us, the first and most important thing is grip. Now we're going to talk about numerous grips. We have a numbering system that we use, and then where we start and where we finish with the total technique base is the law of individual differences. We have an ultimate picture where we would like all our athletes to be. We start from there, and then we build into where their strengths are. Some may be better in close with their arms. Some we can get out to maximum width and cut down leverages. But everything is based off of the setup, and then we adjust arms and leg positioning based on the law of individual differences. First, we're going to go over our numbering processes for the grip. Gabe, we can lay down. We number our grips 1 through 6. Primarily, we're going to use several of these grips in our training. First is a grip 3. The athlete will take half his thumb on the smooth and then half of his thumb on the knurl. This would be grip 3. Grip 2 is full thumb from the smooth. Grip 1 is pinky on the knurl line. And then for us, grip 6 is index finger on the knurl line. And in powerlifting, in the sport of powerlifting, this is the maximum grip that you can take. In our training for the 225 bench, if our athletes can develop their technique at grip 6, we prefer this. Because when we build a base, remember, our goal is maximal repetitions. The definite way to improve maximal repetitions is to decrease the distance between the bar touching the chest and the bar going to full extension at the elbow. So we prefer to have our athletes out at grip 6 if possible, but we've had athletes perform 30 or more reps at grip 3, 2, and 1. From an athletic standpoint, with our team, most of our athletes, and we evaluate 2 grips. We will evaluate a 1 repetition max at grip 3 and a 1 repetition max at grip 2. Very few of our guys go to grip 1. Those guys are guys with very, very long arm length, and those guys' height from a standing position is generally taller than 6'5". Primarily, our guys we're going to be within the framework of the body at grips 3 and grip 2. Okay, first what we're going to talk about is how we would prefer them to have the quality setup in the bench press, more particularly the 225 bench press repetition test. What we're going to do first is, again, our number 1 feel is hands and the kinesthetic awareness of the hand on the bar. If you have lazy hands or your hands are not firmly on the bar, you're going to lose valuable repetitions at the end. Once you grab, you're grabbing that bar for dear life. This is big money for especially a lineman. The 40 is big money for your fast guys and your outside the box guys. The linemen are going to shine in the bench press. So Gabe uses the max grip. So the first thing he's going to do is approach the bar, and he's going to get his grip, and he's going to roll that bar until he feels that bar perfect in his hands. We like a locked wrist. Now we're going to do the most important thing, setting up and doing the best job we can of decreasing the range of motion from his chest to the bar when he pulls the bar out. What we like to do is pull ourselves under and set our feet. Generally, we would prefer them to have the full ball of their feet on the floor with their heel up. This is going to allow them to tuck under the bench more so with their feet flat out in front of them. And what this allows you to do is, if your knee is below your hip, you'll have very, very few chance of your butt coming off the bench. The 2 biggest things that a scout or a coach are going to look for in your repetition test is not locking out the elbow and the butt coming off the bench. So our goal is to lock the butt and the upper back on the bench and raising the chest cavity as high as we can to decrease the range of motion. So once Gabe knows where his foot pattern is set, he's going to pull himself up. His butt right now is off and his glutes are pinched. He's got a big arch in his back. His chest is up and he is squeezing his traps together. And from here, he's going to sit straight down. Now look at the base as he holds that. In a typical fashion, most guys are just going to lay on the bench. Flatten out, Gabe. Look at the difference. Regardless of grip, you have to build a tremendous base. There's a lot of power. You are driving now from the top of the knee all the way through the upper body. When we talk about how to explode and punch the bar off the chest, we'll show you how it's not a press. It's a punch of the total upper body and the legs. But look again. Set it back up, Gabe. He's got his bar. He's squeezed. He's locked in. He feels the bar. He's straight up. If you touch your athlete's glutes, these glutes are flexed. He's contracting the glute, and all of here is tight. I can stick my fingers right in between his traps, and he's straight down. If I ask Gabe what he feels, this is what he feels. He's feeling a pull from the quad all the way into his chest. And again, here's his hip, here's his knee. Very few chance of this butt coming off and losing repetitions. We had one athlete this year who lost 5 repetitions at the NFL Combine because he didn't get his right setup and his butt came off the bench for 5 reps they took from him. He came back and gained those 5 reps back on his pro day, but still, Combine and pro day, 2 different evaluations. The Combine is when you want to shine if you have that opportunity. Pro day is a day for you guys at the Combine to improve on the numbers you get at the Combine. So it's very, very important. like Martin said, everything has to be perfect because the anxiety should not be something that scares you. It should be something that excites you to perform. Okay, we're going to show it one more time from a side view. And actually, and we'll talk more about the differences in warm-up between a pro day 225 bench and a combine 225 bench. The one thing I'll say about that is the combine is very rushed. The guys are thrown at it fast. At the pro day, typically, the strength and conditioning coach is controlling the tempo, and that's why a lot of times, probably over 95%, individuals who perform at the combine and follow that up with an on-campus pro day always better their numbers. So Gabe's going to set up again. One of the things we'll actually do too is in training, and this is how Gabe learned his arch, there's two different ways you can do this. One is have your partner or coach actually pull you up from the waist and the lower back. So when we first started with Gabe, when he's up, we're pulling this up and forcing him down. And now he's actually even gotten higher. I mean, look at that hold. Now from here, we're going to talk about how we would bring the bar out so we can lock our lats. Everything we want to do is make this a full total body lift as well as using all the upper body musculature. So what we're going to do is we talk about pulling the bar out. So when you set here, Gabe's shoulders are back. We've pulled them down rather than up high in a shrug position. This allows him to lock his lats. Now he's going to cup his elbows in and he's going to pull the bar slightly out of the hook and bring it to a part about 2 inches below his nipple. As he lowers the bar down, he is lowering through his lats. He touches here, and then it's a vigorous rotation of the lats through the shoulder and a punch like he's throwing a punch in a fight straight up in one specific motion, right to the hand, straight up. He locks the lats, punch, racket. We had the chains on, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But as you can see, the stroke is much different than if he was flat back. So we're going to show Gabe with just a flat back. He's just going to lay down like 90% of guys do. He's just going to grab the bar. And again, look at the difference in the range of motion. Look at how much loose he is just with the bars. Your goal is to save all your energy for this motion. How many times do you see guys who don't set up and about halfway through their test, their legs are flying out, they're squirming all over the bench. Now all that wasted and exerted energy has cost you anywhere between 3 and 5 repetitions. 3 and 5 repetitions is the difference between someone getting 25 and 30, 15 and 20, and then those truly elite guys, 35 and 40.